Why most e-commerce strategies fail and what to do instead. So I speak with many well-established brands who have mastered it when it comes to selling in physical stores. But when it comes to selling online, they're often confused as to why they're not seeing as much success. They're doing million in revenue. They are very well known across their product categories. They are market leaders, but there are often 4 key reasons why they're failing when it comes to e-commerce. And so I am going to walk you through those 4 reasons today. So the first reason is legacy thinking. And what I mean by that is using the same playbook that you have, for example, for physical stores, and using that when it comes to selling online. So it's basically assuming that how you sell and your approach is the same when you're selling, for example, to a supermarket such as Tesco, Asda, as it is to selling on Amazon, which is completely the wrong approach. Amazon is all about discoverability, it's all about conversion. And then when we look at other platforms like TikTok, it's all about storytelling, it's all about community. And then when we talk about your website, it's all about lifetime value and building up the brand. So even when we're looking at e-commerce, you need to have a different approach depending on the platform. So you can't assume that what worked with your supermarket, such as your Tesco's, isn't automatically going to work with Amazon. You need to have a different strategy for Amazon. You need to have a different strategy if you're selling on TikTok Shop, and a different strategy when it comes to your D2C website. Reason number 2 is over-complication and bureaucracy. I know with a number of well-established brands, there's so many different people involved when it comes to sign-off. So just when it comes to signing off a product image or some content, it goes through a number of different people. It might go through a number of different people in different countries. And what happens is that sign-off process becomes really long. And by the time a product image or some content gets signed off, or it might even need to go to legal, what often happens is sometimes that content is then out of date. In the meantime, what you'll find is those smaller brands, which are still competitors, are so agile that they're moving really fast because they don't have those sign-off processes. And it's actually those smaller brands that some of the well-established brands don't see as direct competition. They're the ones that are killing it on all the different e-commerce channels because they can move so quick. And they have sort of mastered different strategies, whilst a lot of the bigger brands are still trying to figure them out because of this long sign-off process, having too many people involved and so many different KPIs. So if you're an established brand and you're thinking, yeah, I can relate to that, we have a very long process when it comes to approving images, content, etc., or just looking at strategies. See how you can create different boundaries when it comes to your e-commerce team. And what I mean by that is giving them a little bit more leeway in terms of what they can approve and really shortening that sign-off process. Because if you want to compete when it comes to selling online, you need to be able to move quick, you need to be agile. Reason 3, resource misallocation. And what I mean by that is making sure that you're hiring the right people and putting them in the right seats. I've seen this happen with so many brands where you'll have a national account manager who, let's say, been working with the large supermarket chains for a number of years. So very used to that way of working, of going in, having a meeting, having a range review, and really building that relationship with the buyer. Whereas when it comes to e-commerce, it's so different. It's a different skill set. Yes, there's to some degree some relationship building, although it depends whether or not you actually have access, like on Amazon, to a vendor manager or an account manager at TikTok. But it's more, there's a different skill set, it's more data driven. And so it's really important that when you're a brand that you're looking at making sure not only do you have the right people in the right seats, but you've got the right budget for that as well. Because what we see is sometimes brands are investing a huge amount of their budget when it comes to physical stores and managing that side of the business. that there's not as much budget for e-commerce, but actually it's so much more complex when working with e-commerce, and you need to have the budget to be able to afford the right team that know how to optimize and know the playbook and the right strategy for when it comes to selling online. Reason for forgetting the customer. Now, when you're selling products in a store, it's a lot more difficult to get feedback from the customer, unless of course you're doing surveys, because you as a brand are not going to be in the store and you're not going to be asking the question to the customers, do you like the product? What do you think about X, etc. Now, when it comes to online, feedback, reviews and ratings are huge. Let's talk about Amazon as an example. If you want to know whether or not a product that you just launched into the market is working or not, you can just go onto the product page and read the reviews, and you can straight away see what the customer is saying about your products. Although I say that and it seems really obvious, there are so many brands again that we speak to that aren't looking at the reviews, and instead they're getting caught up internally with what they believe is right for the customer, getting caught up with all their different processes, their promotional calendars and everything, when really they should be investing time on sites like Amazon or even TikTok, and even on the socials, and seeing what content are their customers engaging with, what are they saying about the products, and all the answers are there. And if you start using that to help you develop your products further, that's when you start winning. And that is what those smaller brands are doing, and why they're winning when it comes to e-commerce, because they are adapting. They're seeing what the customers are saying about their products. They take that feedback on board. So when it comes to introducing a new product or upgrading their current product, they take on board what their customers are saying. And I have a bonus reason as well. We're talking about execution, but we're also talking about strategy, and often those parts don't always sync up. We can sit here and talk about strategy, and I see it with so many different brands, is that they put together these strategy documents, these presentations, and they're talking about what they should be doing. But actually, when it comes down to executing and making that happen, that's not always the case. So it's really important when you're thinking about your e-commerce strategy that you are then converting that into clear action points, because it's all well and good talking about what you're going to be doing, but if you are not clear on your next steps in terms of what are those actions and who in the team is going to be accountable for them, then it just becomes another document that gets put to one side. So always make sure that you can deliver on what you are planning and talking about. So in summary, the biggest risk for brands when it comes to selling online isn't that their products don't work or the competition, it's usually stagnation. And so just remember the key reasons that I said and I spoke about why businesses and well-established brands aren't succeeding online. And that's because of the over-complication and bureaucracy, really long sign-off processes, that legacy thinking about what you've been doing for the last 10 years with physical stores and assuming that that will happen online. It won't. You need a separate approach, and a separate approach for each platform. And also remembering who the customer is. Never forget the customer, and utilize all that information, all the reviews, how the customers are engaging with with your content. Just make sure you're taking all of that into account, and also that you're putting budget into the right teams for your e-commerce business, because there's a different skill set needed for somebody that's managing your physical stores to somebody that's going to manage your online stores. So make sure that you have sufficient budget to put the right people in the right seats. So I wish you all the best of luck when it comes to devising your e-commerce strategy. And if you want any support when it comes to putting that together and knowing what approach you should be taking, for example, for Amazon, what your approach should be for TikTok Shop or your D2C website, make sure you come to ecommercenurse.com and reach out to the team. We are experts when it comes to devising a strategy, and we not only are experts when it comes to talking about the strategy, also when it comes to executing as well.